This is the 1993 Trooper S, the base model, which is now approximately 26 years old. It has approximately 120,000 miles on it and has never had any major work done. It is clearly the best SUV ever made, bar none. So let's take a look at the engine. This 1993 Trooper S, which is the base model, came with a V6 engine, which was a 3.2 liter single overhead cam, which I assume the cams are in these cases here. Spark plugs indicate 6-cylinder. And all of the other components I'm not really familiar with. I assume this is the air filter encasement. This is the radiator overflow container. This is the brake fluid container. Not sure about that one. And these things, I'm not sure what they do. And let's see. That's brake fluid. That must be transmission fluid overflow or something. I don't know. And the transmission fluid gauge, as well as the engine oil. Well, transmission, engine oil. Let's see. See how much I know about these things. It looks like, yeah, transmission, engine oil, fuse box, and battery compartment, and the fan belt area. Now, over the 26 years, I've had almost no problems with the engine, transmission, drivetrain, or anything like that. Basically, it's been oil changed about twice a year or whenever I thought about it. And the only thing that's gone bad, which is a minor thing, is the windshield filler basin. It is a plastic container, much like the overflow container for the radiator. And over the years, it just sort of dry rotted the plastic, and the plastic split on its own. And one day I tried to use the windshield wiper spray, and the engine came on, the motor came on for the sprayer, but no fluid came out. So a couple of years later, I just assumed it wasn't working anymore. So a couple of years later, I finally said, let me put some fluid in there and see what's wrong with that thing. And I put some fluid in it, and it promptly came out on the street. So then when I looked up in there, and there was a huge crack in there, and the plastic would just peel off if you touched it or even looked at it hard enough. So that's the really only thing. I haven't replaced it because it's stuck way down in here. And let's see, you can see a little bit of the spout there. And you'd have to move a lot of things around just to replace that thing. So I just carry around a small sprayer bottle of glass cleaner and take care of problems right on the spot. So basically no real trouble with this particular vehicle at all, and this is over 26 years. Now, of course, there were 2 recalls for this vehicle, and both of them were within the first 5 years. First recall involved some type of plug in the engine. I don't know whether it was a plug like this, that in some of the engines the plug would blow out, and there'd be a loss of engine oil, which could leak down to the hot part of the outside of the engine and cause a fire. Up to the time of the recall, I had no problem with that. I promptly took the vehicle in and they replaced that plug with the recommended one, and I haven't had any problem in the ensuing 20 plus years with that. The second recall was for something to do with the sleeve on the accelerator wire that went to the carburetor. And basically what would happen is sometimes the accelerator would be stuck in the last position you had it in. So when you took your foot off of the accelerator, it did not return to the neutral position. So that presented a big problem in terms of a car going wild and you're not having difficulty stopping it. I didn't have that trouble, and for some reason I guess I threw that mail out because I never got, or at least I don't remember getting the letter for the recall, so I never did anything. But along about 10, 15 years ago, somewhere between 10 and 15 years ago, I was driving down the street and I pressed the accelerator pedal. And when I let off the pedal to slow down, it took its own sweet time coming back to the neutral position. And I said, gee, that's strange. So I pumped it a couple of times, and at the next intersection, it did the same thing. Well, you could still slow the car down with the brake, but then you'd have the accelerator racing a little bit. So I took that into my regular mechanic because by that time there was no more Isuzu. And they looked at the recall list. They ordered the new lubricated sleeve that went on the end of the accelerator wire, replaced it, and I haven't had any problem with that at all. And that's basically it. Everything else has been pretty sound. Both of the differentials have not been a problem. There's not been any problem with a leak in the oil pan or transfer case or any of those things. I've just done regular maintenance, oil change a couple of times a year, like I said, and that's it. I don't think I have the original shocks. Again, I'm talking 26 years ago, and I can't remember all those things. And if I've ever had brakes done, it was only done one time. Because I'm not heavy on the brakes, I tend to ease up well before I have to stop at an intersection, so I don't wear out my brakes on any of the vehicles that I have. Of course, I've had things like tubes replaced and things, but I call that routine maintenance. This car has passed inspection both in California and in Nevada every time, 26 years worth of inspections. And you know that California is tough on vehicle inspections in terms of emissions, and this vehicle passed every time. This distance is almost 15 inches or 14 and a half, and this is with standard stock tires which came with the Trooper, which are P245 70R16 106T, and this is the kind of height that you get. And I believe that this area is supported by cross beams so that it acts as a guardrail. Move under the vehicle. Stock vehicle, metal skid plate in the front. So as we look under the vehicle, starting from the front, you have this piece here. that protects the axles. And this is approximately 9 inches off the ground. Then next, you have this piece here, which appears to be a skid plate to protect the transmission, the main transmission. Then this is followed by another skid plate. And remember, these are metal skid plates that come standard with the 1993 Trooper S that covers the transfer case. The skid plate that covers the transmission is approximately 8 inches above ground level, and the skid plate for the transfer case is approximately 8 inches above ground level. And as you can see here, the cross beam, or the main chassis beam, is approximately 10 inches off the ground. And the skid plates are attached to them. And this cross piece goes all the way across. Towards the rear wheel, there is a stabilizer bar. Now I want you to note something about this particular vehicle. The drive shaft. Even though there's some of the coating missing here, but mind you, this vehicle's 26 years old. Look at how this drive shaft already came with a rust preventive coating. Compare that to a 2016 Jeep Wrangler, where the drive shaft looks like it had been out in the rain and unprotected and appears to be rusted all the way through. Now some people say that that was a rust patina and not to worry about it, but it certainly doesn't look good. And in fact, when you look at the JL model Jeep, they decided in late 2018 and then 2019 to go ahead and put a rust preventer on the drive shaft. So obviously that was an issue with many people. Also, you can see here the rear differential, the U-joints, the springs. None of this has been changed in 26 years. Never had a leak in either the front or the rear differential. Now look at this. This vehicle's 26 years old, purchased in 1993. Basic model, gas tank, has its own separate sturdy looking skid plate. There's a tow hook there. And if I can get up further under the vehicle, you can see more of the undercarriage of this vehicle.